Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
This is the morning drive at Mira Business FM. The question this morning: can traditional Emirati ingredients become the next global food trend? One UAE entrepreneur believes dates and camel milk could be the foundation of a new generation of premium high-protein snacks, while also supporting food security, local manufacturing and sustainable innovation. Joining us is Rashid Gargash, who's the founder of Rations, the homegrown nutrition brand, hopefully reimagining regional ingredients for modern consumers. It's good to meet you, Rashid.
Great to meet you too.
Good to have you here.
Thank you.
So look, let's start with your journey. It didn't start in a commercial kitchen. It was research into, I've read, humanitarian aid and food security. So how does a mission to solve childhood malnutrition in developing regions lead to a commercial protein bite in a premium glass jar? How did that happen?
Well, I actually started out with a question: how can I feed an entire country from within our country? So it was essentially a food system engineered for children. I just realized that the same model could actually work with my nephews, and I just iterated for them. So I replaced everything. So rations is basically a dichotomy. It's the product and the distribution.
Yeah.
You could actually reflect that towards the culture here. So for me, I'm a very family-oriented person. I'm a very typical Emirati. I love my country, I love my people, and I love my family.
Okay.
And I love my leadership. So especially the family part, so I wanted my nephews to have the best of everything. So I replaced the ingredients with super high-quality premium versions of the actual product that I was developing. So what would that be? It's camel milk, because that's what we have in the desert, and khalas dates. So khalas dates are basically the best type of dates. And the oil that I put in is A2 ghee, so it's organic.
Okay,
yeah.
I've got you. Well, look, I'm a huge date fan, so I'm with you. You had me at dates, as it were. What was the turning point where you decided, right, Rations is going to be more than an outreach project. This is going to become a consumer brand?
Well, Dubai is a brand in itself.
Right.
And I wanted it to be something that I grew up with. So these are flavors that I grew up with. And I wanted that not only here, but I wanted to export it to the rest of the world.
Okay.
Yep.
Simple. What is it about dates and camel milk that it's still, as far as I can tell, it's catching on, camel milk, but it's still underutilized, let's put it that way, despite being, regionally, camel milk is, I hate to use the word iconic, but it's the best word I can use. Why is it not used more?
Well, people are not very familiar with the different variations of dates, first of all. So there are many, many types of dates. There's khalas, there's sukkari, there's many, many types. So when it's underutilized, yeah, but there's a huge variation. And within the GCC, there's even variations of the variation that we have. So within khalas, there's many types of variations, some that you can find in Saudi Arabia, some that are famous in Saudi Arabia and not famous here, for example.
Right.
So in terms of camel milk is, it's not really as abundant as cow milk. So cow milk, all of the research and everything, so filtration and ultrafiltration, microfiltration, that's all done with cow milk. All of the technology is built around cow milk. To reinvent the wheel and use it for camel milk is a whole separate research thing that you got to do before you actually do the production to it.
Okay, so it's limited, essentially, is what you're saying.
It's limited and it's new.
Right. Consumers are demanding high-protein snacks. You see more and more on supermarket shelves. How do you view the opportunity for UAE-made brands in a market that, it's pretty fast-growing?
Okay. So the opportunity, I believe, in the UAE and within the GCC is quite huge. And I see protein becoming something more mainstream and more like... so protein has a connotation to this product is healthy. especially within the newer generation. The way that I see the region, especially, is that protein production should eventually be made here. So, as in powders and things like that. We're slowly going into it now, but not into powders, not into proper powders.
I mean, people view food differently now, don't they? I guess it's more of a food is fuel kind of attitude in these modern times. You talk a lot about modern Emirati nutritions, that as a category, I suppose. Has there been a barrier? Has it been difficult to convince, the fitness enthusiasts today that, what their grandparents ate, dates, camel milk, could actually be quite good fuel for a workout, for example?
So I think that the way that they really look at that is that they're afraid of the chemicals that are in the product, and the preference is towards the natural cycle of I want just a date and some milk. However, everything is changing. So the benchmarks of athleticism have changed. So athletes are going far beyond. So they basically need different type of nutrition. Protein powders are not necessarily dangerous in any way, but people are afraid of the chemical aspect inside them. So everything is ultra processed. Chocolate is not even real anymore; it's lab grown. I basically try to stop that part. I'm trying to. So I've got something called 7. So lucky number 7. So I make sure that the amount of ingredients that I have inside every one of my products is less than 7 ingredients. I make sure that there are no chemicals inside it because, as I said in the very first part, I made this specifically for my nephews and nieces. I wouldn't give them anything that would be harmful to them.
So you can be sure of what you're getting. You can be sure of that nutrition. Okay. So 20 grams of protein in a single serving without added sugar or preservatives, and a minute ingredient list. It's a pretty difficult nutritional profile to hit with natural ingredients. Has it been hard to get that kind of technical shelf life stability? Is that harder than just the branding challenge?
It was extremely difficult. I actually had to go into food science. I built my first machine line in my kitchen in America. But now, I actually led my HACCP team through an international certification. So I'm internationally certified. I've built my own factory. I've ran the audits myself. But there's the food science aspect behind it. The product was actually the first of its kind, and that caused a lot of problems in my process. It was very difficult, but essentially, I had to make my own preservative, but it was not really a preservative. I engineered the product, and I basically had to make this thing called pumice. Okay. Pumice is, you can find it in a research paper, but not, mass-produced. Okay. I'm the first person to mass-produce it. So pumice isolate. It's basically date fiber isolate. From the date itself, I started spinning the date really, really fast, and I had to pull the sugar out and pull all of the brown part. Yeah, yeah. And what you're left with is a fiber strip that's very close to the seed itself, and I turned that into a powder. So it regulates the water activity. So in food science, there's something called water activity. As long as you get it below a certain threshold, you have the possibility of getting a certain amount of shelf life.
That's remarkable.
Thank you.
I was thinking, you said pumice there, and I'm thinking pumice stone, and that's an entirely different thing. So this is a little bit like, it sounds almost, it's not spun sugar, but the process of spinning the fibers and getting rid of the water, grinding it down, and creating a powder. Is that what it is in simple terms? Really simple terms?
Something like that. So
not really at all.
The very beginning of this process started out, I couldn't afford a centrifuge in the beginning. So I had a washing machine, and I had to modify the washing machine, and I had to put a filter inside it. It's a very technical process, yeah.
So you really had to re-engineer your home kitchen.
Yeah.
Okay.
The washing machine was not in my kitchen. It was in the factory.
So you took it out of the
space.
kitchen. Okay.
Yeah,
Did you replace the washing machine?
Of course.
Okay, good. Okay. We got to check these things. In the UAE, there's a big import culture, of course. Food, lots of food is imported. What's been the biggest operational hurdle for you building the supply chain, your homegrown supply chain for the snacks, for the offering that you have? Did you have to reinvent the way local farmers process their dates, for example, and obviously their milk to get the quality you want?
No.
Not at
These
all, no?
are readily available on the market. I did not have to change a thing.
Okay. So it was reasonably straightforward to get to market once the food science had been done and the washing machine. So you're targeting the local market. You're positioning these products. I mean, you've already mentioned that you want to compete internationally, Rashid. What's the one thing about Emirati food heritage that you see being underestimated or underutilized, or maybe people just aren't aware of globally?
So, as I said in the very beginning, the problem that we're having across the world is that Dubai is a brand. And, within that brand, there's the culture. And within the culture, we have specific things such as camel milk instead of regular milk. We have khalas dates instead of medjool dates. Medjool dates are great, but nobody really knows what a khalas date even is outside of this country. You go to America, you go to the UK, you tell them that I like khalas dates or sukkari dates, they're going to look at you like.
And I think
idea.
it's even more basic than that. People just think date
Yeah,
outside of this country, don't they?
yeah.
There are variations. There are dates in. A friend of mine gave me some dates from Medina once, and it was just like caramel, completely different, super sweet taste, really dark. So I'm getting into my date fandom here. You have to excuse me.
Okay.
But no, I think it's as simple as that. So it's an awareness issue, isn't it? It's understanding that there's a little bit more here than maybe people outside looking in. There's more than Dubai chocolate, put it that way.
I look at Dubai chocolate is great. It really is a portion of the reflection, but the other portion is that we're also a healthy people.
Yeah, by nature.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think homegrown food brands can realistically compete with the global giants on supermarket shelves? Do you think that's
Absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely, we can. International market chains started somewhere. So Hershey's and Mars basically started in the same factory. So I have a strong belief that it's not just the Dubai brand, but it's what we have to offer. We have a lot of dates in this region, and nobody's really looking into it.
It's a huge percentage of the international date crop from this region. I don't know what it is. I read figures years ago of something like 30% of the international. I don't know if there's any truth in that, but for some reason it struck me and it was a remarkable percentage. A couple more questions for you because we're nearly out of time. You've, in the reading that I've done about you, you mentioned a dual strategy. So scaling commercial success, hopefully, so that you can reinvest in humanitarian impact, which is part of your background, I understand. As a founder, how do you keep the mission from being diluted when you've got the pressure, the very real pressures of retail distribution, the day-to-day business stuff, profit margins, when that starts to mount? How are you going to get those two to work along side by side?
So the humanitarian aspect is a very long-term vision. It's not immediate. Right. So I realized very early on that I need to make money as a company. So that's why I went into the retail industry. The retail industry, I realized that many parts are missing. So there are many opportunities. And, that comes into protein powders and into the... so I'm even going into cereal production because we don't have a single Emirati cereal in this region. There are many parts that I want to fix on that, on that end. And then eventually, maybe I'm hoping maybe 5 to 10 years into the future, I'm going to go back into the humanitarian aspect. So I hope that it's going to be a lot less than that because of how fast the world is moving. I expect it to be much less than that. But, I'm just giving myself a benefit of a doubt.
Okay. So there's a niche here, isn't there? But it's not just there's a gap in the market for you. It's more than that, it seems to me. There's a gap in the market, but this is something that it's not just about filling the gap, it's about offering something that means something to you.
Yes, essentially it was I needed to make the concept of, do we have a way to feed everybody in a whole country if we had to? So the answer is yes, and I just provided that concept. Whether it works or not, I was solving a problem.
Yeah, okay. Final question for you. Food security is a major focus. It's one of the pillars moving forward for the UAE, and I mean across the Gulf as well. This is a way of contributing to food security, I guess, isn't it? But it would be nice to see other startups joining you, contributing in a similar way, in a meaningful way. Are you starting to see people see the opportunity?
Yes, but okay, so let me make a small correction. So you need to see whether it works or not. It's not in a monetary sense. You have to solve a problem? Okay. So what was I doing? I was trying to feed an entire country. I don't care about how much money I'm going to make. I'm trying to solve I'm trying to solve the problem of feeding an entire country. The problem that I see today is that everybody has a monetary problem that they want to solve.
Yeah.
I think it's more of a mindset. So could you just repeat the question one more time so that I answer it properly?
Just to see people with you. Food security is enormously important for the UAE. It's one of the pillars going forward. And I think that's the same across the Gulf because we see so much imported food. This is not a climate that induces crops easily. So food security is key. You're doing this. It would be nice to see other people doing something with you, not just for monetary gain, for financial gain, but also that contributes to the nation. That was what I was trying to say.
Okay. So I really do think there will be a rising of this. But one, it will be the problem-solving aspect, and two, there's going to be a realization that you can, AI startups will start, but you can never stop the human aspect of you have to build a machine. Food security is not as simple, or you have to farm it. Food security has the physical aspect and the human error. You can never replace that. So even robots have mistakes. It's too early.
Do you know what? It's been interesting. Sometimes the most disruptive innovation isn't new technology. It's just perspective, which I think is something that you have. Something different to what's in our kitchen cupboards, at least. Rashid Gargash is the founder of the homegrown nutrition brand. Is that the right way to phrase it? Nutrition brand? I think it works. Rations. It'd be good to talk to you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you coming in. If you're watching on YouTube right now, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
This is the morning drive. For many UAE students, summer is unfortunately no longer a holiday. It's becoming a chance to maybe have an internship. You can learn new skills. You can boost your chances, perhaps, of landing a job after graduation. And as employers place a greater value on real-world experience, are students making better use of the summer break? There's a question. Dr. Anita Patanka is Executive Director at Symbiosis International University, Dubai, joins me in the studio. It's good to meet you.
Lovely to be here. I'm excited about this conversation.
It's good to have you here. So look, the summer break used to be synonymous with downtime when I was a kid. Many years ago, I have to be honest, my summers were anything other than work. But
Mine
the thing
too.
is, I think there's been a big change. We are in the UAE, it's a high growth economy. It's perhaps the summer, maybe the most productive quarter of the year for some students now, isn't it?
Well,
In work terms,
let me just say, I don't think that applies to 100% of the students.
Okay.
I think you still have a reasonably good cohort of students who are not doing anything but lazing around, playing sports, watching movies, hanging out with your friends.
Okay.
I think what we are talking about, and universities tend to cater primarily to this group of students, are the ones who are ambitious about their own personal and professional lives.
Okay.
So let's focus on that, but let's also be aware of the fact that everybody is not wanting to learn a new language or get some certification or get an internship. They're just saying, let me play, let me learn a sport, let me do stuff that will help me, but not necessarily in my career growth. So I would say there's a good 20 to 30, if not more, percentage of people who are doing that. I think the UAE has a larger number of students who are focused on their careers because, and you may not agree with me, but I think their parents are more focused. If you look at the middle class, upwardly mobile parent, they focus a lot.
Yeah, no, I would agree with you in lots of ways. I think people look at the region maybe differently now, but I think if you've made the jump and come here, then maybe your attitude is a little bit more of a go-getting attitude.
Probably, I would say
Probably.
70%
That's
of the
fair.
parents are like that.
Yeah, okay.
You still have some who want to spend their summers the way they did,
Yeah.
play,
Yeah.
and they've sent the kids to a good school, so it's good enough. I would say by the second last of the last year, I think everyone is career focused.
Right.
The first couple of years may not be. On a personal note, I do have to say, I don't know whether it's a good thing that young adults are so focused on what industry wants and what their career requires, because who knows what the future holds. We have absolutely no idea, which industries are going to survive. Technology is changing our lives so rapidly. Who knows, 5 years from now, what is going to happen and what are we training them for? But in that sense, I also understand that internships are a great way of just understanding how organizations work.
I mean, it's a very personal thing, isn't it? And, ambition is a very hard thing to put your finger on. I had a friend at school who, when we were 13, 14, said to me, I'm going to be a vet. That's what I want to be. I want to be a veterinary surgeon. That's how I'm going to go. And I remember looking at him thinking, but you're so bad at science. There's no way you're going to be a vet. You're stupider than I am. You're 13, 14. He's now a vet, has been a vet for a long time. So
And he's probably very successful.
I would think probably very good because it's more of a calling.
Yeah.
Some people are like that. I was never like that. I have long said I don't know what I want to do when I grow up. And I still say that now. But it's not a one-size-fits-all. The one thing that we do know is that employers in Dubai, in the UAE, employers everywhere, struggle to find, they always say they've struggled to find graduates with that real-world readiness, don't they? So that's a perennial issue. So I suppose, we're encouraging more and more of these kind of placements so that you get that real world experience, because that's so key. Because when you enter the workplace, this is a new frontier.
Yeah. So this is a criticism that we've always received
Yes.
from any employer, whether it's the government, in the NGO sector, whether it's the corporate sector, that your graduates are not employable, that your graduates do not get what we need. And we have to spend a lot of time and money on training them once we hire them. So this has always been a criticism that we've received. I think over the years, the pressure on universities to deliver, for lack of a better term, I'm just going to, odious term, but I'm going to say ROI for parents and students, not just financially, but also in terms of the time and the energy and the effort that you put into, getting a degree.
Yeah.
That pressure on universities is so strong that I think in the last 20 years, and we've been in Dubai for the last 2 years, and we came in with this agenda that our outcomes were future ready, industry ready graduates, which means a combination of getting industry experts into the classroom, getting them to be on our review boards for syllabus, curriculum, etc., but also offering lots of opportunities for industry projects, live projects, and then internships, volunteering in organizations during their events. And I think that is something that helps that partnership between academia and industry, where industry feels we are being responsive, because ultimately our graduates are their future. And therefore, whether it's design thinking, whether it's critical thinking, whether it's problem solving, they're also looking at us now that in addition to domain knowledge, we're also going to train our students in this. And then we're going to fill it up by also making sure that they get what companies need from them, so that when they join, they hit the ground running.
Okay. So do you think that have we seen in recent years the kind of summer internship thing, has that evolved from more of I'm going to check the box, I'm going to do that, my mum and dad will be happy, into more of almost a make or break career strategy? Has it become a critical kind of professional milestone, do you think? Because this is a really competitive market.
I think you still have 10 to 20% of students who are in university because of mommy and daddy's wishes.
I bet, yeah.
Okay?
I'd say it's probably
They're still
higher.
struggling with what's my calling? What do I want to do?
Right.
And this just gives them 2 more years of time to figure out life. And therefore, the internship is also a tick box. But I have seen at least 80, if not more % of students who are here because they're driven. I think careers and professional success have become such a big integral part of our self-identity that they're very focused on that. They're focused through school. They're focused on, that's my goal, by 40, this is what I want to do. And therefore, for them, it's not just the summer internship. They're looking for opportunities through the year. I have students in the Bachelor of Computer Applications and a BTech program, and they are in our offices all through the year saying, is there a project we can do? I just got this certification. I learned this. I'm happy to work on the weekends. And I find that I'm a little in awe, because I don't think I was ever that driven at that age.
I'm in awe of anybody with the energy to work at the weekends, Anita.
And they're happy to do that.
Right.
So I think it's become the distinctive feature. For example, you take an MBA, the average MBA at any good university is more or less the same.
Right.
In terms of domain knowledge, right?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
It's the extras that distinguish one graduate from another. And I think one of the areas where students like to distinguish themselves from their other classmates is in this area, is what kind. I had a girl, student who deliberately chose, I think she did 4 internships during her 2-year master's program, and she deliberately chose different sectors. And she
Okay.
said, I will join an organization and they will not know what their future holds. They will want someone who's adaptable. They will want someone who's resilient. They will want someone who enjoys challenges. And therefore, when they look at this and what I've learned,
Mm.
I think it's giving me a leg up. And that's what you're hearing from a lot of students today, is that how do I distinguish myself? How do I make myself more valuable from day one?
That's somebody with real focus, by the way, that example. So when you talk to, you say you've got lots of professionals coming in, maybe corporate partners. What do they say to you that they're looking for in graduates? What do they really value when they report back to you on their student interns?
I think they're actually not looking too much for academic strength. Yes, the GPA counts because that's the first filter.
Mm-hmm.
Domain knowledge is now taken as a given. With technology, etc., that I feel has lost a little bit of its strength. I think they are looking for people who are great at problem solving, who are not afraid to voice a differing opinion, who are not afraid of the hierarchy, and have confidence in their ability to, to judge situations, to do, to analyze data. So I think they're looking for these critical skills that are beyond domain. So they're looking at problem solving, critical thinking. They're looking at data analysis. They're looking at media literacy. They're looking at cross-cultural. I think they're looking at understanding how the world works in terms of economics, geopolitically, connecting the dots. I think that's what they're looking at. And this is based on the feedback that I've been getting from, employers who've hired our people and said, I really liked these three. Do you have more like this?
Right.
Because I think that's the skill. At the undergrad level, I think people are looking at interns slightly differently.
Okay.
I think at the undergrad level, they're just looking for someone who's hardworking, sincere, happy to roll with whatever is thrown at them, ready to learn, and understands enough of the domain that they're able to actually perform certain tasks that groups have. So I can see this huge difference between organizations that want to hire or take as interns undergrads versus those who are taking interns who are, let's say, master's students or MBA students.
So it's much more about soft skills, adaptability,
Yes.
communication, attitude, that kind of thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think that is, today, if you don't fit in,
Yeah.
you're not going to grow. If you can't take a team with you, you're not going to grow. I mean, unless you're a genius in a particular skill that people are ready to overlook, the lack of all those social skills that people
Then you're put in the box. Oh, that's Tim over there. Try and avoid him, but he's okay. Yeah.
But otherwise, yes. But at the same time, I'm saying that, the need to understand technology.
Yeah.
The need to understand how technology impacts. I mean, you don't have to be involved directly in the development of technology, but the understanding of how technology impacts every single function, and that you will be able to sit down with someone who works with technology and bring that gap, bridge the gap, or be the bridge between domain requirements and AI or technology. I think those are things that we are just expecting everybody to get.
No, I mean, that's understandable. Technology tech is here.
AI is here. I mean,
to say that, isn't AI great? That's really not the point. It's just, there it is. Use it.
Yes.
Get on with it. No, I can understand that. So if a student lands a competitive internship here in the Emirates, right?
Yeah.
How does that sort of singular experience transform their CV? Do you think it kind of shortens the time to hire post-graduation? How much use is it really?
Oh, it shortens the period fantastically.
Okay.
I think organizations, HR departments, and they use a lot of AI tools to help them sift through all the applications that they receive. I think they are focused on what skills do these kids have. Classroom based, and however much we tell them that we have industry professionals teaching it, etc., I don't think they trust that much in it. But the minute you say they've worked here, 2 months,
Really?
3 months, and with the UAE and with Dubai specifically, because my experience is with Dubai, we also have the concept of extended internships. So it's not just a 2.5 month summer internship. If they like you, then they will say, we'd love to have you for an extended period of time. That extended internship becomes like a long interview, and sometimes students end up getting job offers. But it definitely shortens, takes you to the top of the list for hiring as an intern, because they're seeing value there. They're seeing that this is a student who's had a lot of experience that is going to be valuable to me, and therefore I probably have to do a little less of training. He will be or she will be more valuable and not just occupy a chair. Organizations also have their social responsibility for offering internships. So they also have those little tick boxes. But I think the minute they see internships, industry projects, live projects, value goes up immediately.
It's a remarkable story. It really is. What? Final question, because unfortunately we're at time. I apologise, but just a final question for you. And I feel quite strongly about this, and I wonder how you see this in terms of internships. We all hear the stories of the interns that are just expected to do some research that, as we were talking off air, that will never be used. It's just a tick box activity, or make the coffee. The horror stories that you hear.
Yeah.
But serious internships, as far as I can tell, they should be paid. There should be remuneration, should there not? Should that be an expectation for students?
I think they should be. I think organizations that have serious interns doing serious projects, not the bring my coffee and stuff like that, should pay. Why not? And I think it's a great gesture of professional behavior from an organization, that I value your work, I value your time, I value your ideas, and as an organization, I value it financially as well. I think for the student, it's huge, because they are now learning that effort should be compensated and that my effort is not for free. Many higher education institutions, for example, our MBA institute, if you tell me you've interned somewhere, I say, was it paid or not paid? Even if it was paid $100, I value that more, because it means you didn't just run around filing stuff or bringing coffee.
Yeah.
But I think it's all about valuing human time and effort.
That's how I see it. And it's interesting that you see. I mean, I think there's an argument that you have to pay your dues in a way, but I feel like there should be remuneration.
There should be. And
So
to be
interesting.
honest, my experience with organizations in Dubai, I think almost all of them paid. They may not have been great amounts of money, but enough to cover the students' costs or stuff. Some, of course, paid healthy amounts. Some tried the first month, saw whether the student was worth it or not, and then paid even with retrospective effect. But globally, I don't think it's a norm, but it should be. Students will take their internship more seriously as well.
Well, I think so. It's the the feeling of value,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
The association of value, I guess. It's been really fascinating talking to you. Dr. Anita Patenka is Executive Director, Symbiosis International University here in Dubai. It's been good to talk to you. Thank you.
Lovely talking to you as well. Thank
to
you
have
so
you
much
with
for
us.
having me.
Like and subscribe. This is Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio. Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
This is the Morning Drive. It's Mira Business FM, and growth alone in business is not enough. Strong financial management has become essential for startups looking to attract investors and scale successfully. Today on Scale or Fail, we explore the financial pitfalls that can often hold businesses back. Joining us is Mohammed Shafiq. Mohammed is the founder and CEO of Financials, which is SHELS. It's a company helping startups and I guess SMEs simplify their bookkeeping, accounting, tax compliance, CFO services, all that kind of stuff, the end-to-end financial management stuff. Mohammed, I hope I got all that right. It's
Yes.
good to have you here.
Thank you, Tim, for inviting me here.
You're very welcome. Let's start this way, if we can. So a strong financial system, that kind of robust financial backbone that businesses need, right, is critically important, particularly for startups. Gets rid of a little bit
Yes.
of the early pressure, I guess. If you get that right from the start, you're off to a pretty good start, right? Unfortunately, good ideas in business don't always come with good financial common sense, do
Yes.
they?
Yes.
It's often lacking, I guess.
Yes.
Do you think that's the case with lots of founders? Do you find that the idea is fantastic, but where's your financial plan? Does it frustrate you?
Yes. So, Tim, I speak to a lot of founders regularly, right? And one of the things that always wonder me that if founders learned a bit of financial literacy, they could have been much successful.
Yeah, far less pain,
Yes.
I guess, in the early days. So what's the biggest financial mistake that founders make? Is it just that lack of knowledge, or is it, are there actual mistakes that you see again and again and again?
See, if you look one side of the success of any business, right, Tim, it's 50% is how do they well manage their finance.
Yeah.
But most of the founders, this is the last thing they wanted to do. Right. So they delay their books till up year end. They don't focus much on the tax compliances. They don't keep the records. They mix a lot of personal business expenses,
Yeah,
all
okay.
sort of things, right?
Yeah.
And end of the day, they don't know the numbers. And they keep taking decisions without looking at the numbers. Eventually, hands off, right? I don't have money to pay bills. I don't have money to pay my employees. My cash is shrinking. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah.
Now I need help, but you're too late.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it's a hard lesson to learn that, isn't it? It's like, I always go back to this. When I was many years ago, I got my first credit card. And of course, I'm like, here we go, boys.
Yes.
And I learned the hard way that you have to pay that money back. But it's a question, isn't it, of getting that discipline
Yes.
instilled in you to deal with the money stuff every day. Because, I've worked for small businesses, and one particular business, I spent most of my time collecting, if I'm really honest, collecting, trying to keep on top of payments. And it's kind of as simple as that, while it's as hard as it is to do. There's a lot of pressure. But if you keep on top of the money, then, it's the pennies taking care of the pounds, isn't it?
Yes. And it's also, one of the things that most of the founders chase revenue, not the cash.
Okay. Got you. So chasing clients.
Yeah, chasing clients
New
without
clients.
whether without looking at whether you actually have the cash in the bank or not, or whether you can collect those cash, or whether the client can pay. So it's all about growing and growing without looking at whether you actually have the cash in
No,
the
I'm
bank.
with you. So acquiring customers is becomes almost an obsession because
Yes,
you
yes.
think your business is going
Growing,
forward.
yes.
But if you're ignoring the money, the kind of the financial ledger,
Yes.
the auditors are knocking at the door.
Yes.
Okay. So at what stage does that kind of the hustle that you have to have as a founder become negligence? Because there's a point at which you have to face reality, I guess.
Because it's sometimes you can't blame on founders because it's hard to manage finance. It's very complex to run finance back office, right? You need to have discipline. You need to track the numbers. You need to know the numbers. You need to know how to track those numbers. How do you keep sanity in house? And it needs a lot of discipline, right? And second, mostly those finance experts are very expensive for them to afford,
Sure.
right? So there is no proper solution in the market that actually helps them to save from this.
Okay, and I suppose as well, and that's obviously the void that you're trying to fill, companies, businesses like yours. Just how much of an effect can poor financial management, because in fact that's what it is. It's just not having the wherewithal, is it? But what can that have on a little bit later down the road when you're looking at maybe fundraising, or you're looking at really attracting investors on investor confidence? It can have a really detrimental effect on that, I guess.
Yes, Tim. Now, if you look at most of the investors like founders who know their numbers. So there's a saying that good founders know their product, great founders know about their numbers.
Really?
So now, if an investor do a due diligence on your books, and if it's not matching with your banks, what's your financial statements, then the trust is gone.
Yeah. Okay.
So all what you do in the business is translated again into numbers, right? This is how you communicate in a business. I'm doing X revenue. This is my expenses. This is what I'm making, right? So if that numbers are not true, how do someone trust you?
Yeah. Well,
From
I
an
mean,
investor lens.
why are you even in business if you're not releasing correct information?
Yes. And the second thing, now, most of the investors ask, what's your runaway? What's your burn rate? How much are you growing your revenue? What's your path, right? What's your target for next year? If the founder is like, not knowing actually what is these numbers are, then investors lose the confidence.
So that's the first warning sign, isn't it?
Yes,
That
yes.
a founder doesn't. What other warning signs are there that reveal that a startup's finances need attention, and they need attention now?
Yes. See, I think most importantly, I would say for a founder, before you're talking to investors or talking about government regulations, as a founder, you need to have clarity to run your business.
Right.
You need to know your numbers. Right now, one classic example is my revenue is growing, bank balance is shrinking.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, because I have collections problem. This is a warning sign. I have delayed tax filings. My VAT filings are delayed. My corporate tax filings are delayed. These are warning signs. I don't have enough runaway for a couple of months.
Right.
This is a warning sign.
Right.
Right. And I don't know my numbers. This is a warning sign.
That's what I've learned from this interview. Know your numbers. Be on top of your finances. Particularly, and the backdrop to this is we have this new kind of era of UAE taxation. It's VAT and corporate tax, e-invoicing mandates, lots of stuff that you need to understand now. So for a founder focused on product, how do they stay compliant without spending weeks on administrative paperwork? Because you've got to find the balance there, haven't you?
Yes. Now, one way to look now with AI, you can automate a lot of things, right?
Yeah, sure.
So, a founder cannot say an excuse, I can't run my numbers properly. It's, you are not paying enough attention to that.
Right.
So, now how do you automate a lot of the things? And it's super simple. There are a lot of softwares, right? Companies like us, right? All of them helps to manage this, right? To have a seamless back office, finance back office where everything is clean, and you don't need to spend like multi amount of dollars for doing this.
No, I can understand
Much
that.
accessible today.
I guess with some founders there is a not hopefully not with too many, but there's a feeling that this is a personal thing. This is my business. I don't want to reveal my financial numbers to all and sundry. I need to keep this close to myself. So for lots of people, I mean, there are thousands of different SaaS accounting software type packages available. But how How would you help a startup decide between a simple kind of off-the-shelf software and a more complex automated kind of financial ecosystem? How do you drill that down for people?
Yes, yes. See, one of the thing most of the people don't like to talk about their finances. It's a taboo topic,
It is for lots,
right?
yeah,
It's
yeah,
a taboo topic. But as a founder who don't want to talk about their finance, it's always you go and check his finances. There will be some mistakes. He might be mismanaging it. He might not be managing it well. There is nothing bad about talking about your finance. Even if you're making money, nobody's gonna come and steal that money, right, from you. If you are not making money, you better save today.
That's a lesson you learn. Hopefully, you learn early in life. No, you're right. But I mean, I guess for lots of founders, they know their business, they know the idea, they're
Yes,
leading from
yes.
the front, they're selling, and clients are coming in, and looking at the numbers is, that's the harsh reality. And I suppose for some people, it's hard to face that, and it's even harder to share that.
Yes, yes, yes. That's a hard reality. But if your health is not well, better consult a doctor,
It's a fair point. Yeah.
right?
If your car doesn't work, go to a mechanic.
Yes. If car doesn't work, go to a mechanic. And
There says a financial man. This is what it is, and this is how it is. What you're saying is you can't avoid it. Stay on top of the numbers and make sure that you deal with them properly. You've often spoke about, and you've said it just here today, actually, but the trap of burning cash on fancy offices or premature hiring or all of that stuff, using money not as wisely as you might otherwise. How can a founder build a lean but credible structure that impresses, say, a venture capital firm during an early round of funding, a Series A round of funding, let's say?
yes, so one of the things that keep your financial statements, do proper bookkeeping. This is number one.
Yep.
Right. Have budgets and bit of forecasting on cash flow. So that puts you very disciplined. Because one of the common mistake founders make is that they hire very fast, right? People,
Yeah.
vanity spending, all can be eliminated if you have proper budgets. Because you already know what's your numbers are gonna be.
Yeah.
And you have kind of rough plan,
Yep.
right? So having right budgets, having proper bookkeeping, and do your tax filing, and track a couple of KPIs. KPIs are your dashboards, right? Like if you are driving a car, then it tells you whether you are overspeeding, your fuel is down, right? Do you have some repairs to be done? All sort of things. Look at certain KPIs. There could be a couple of KPIs that you can actually look at, and that gives you indication. Now stop, right? Don't spend too much. Put a break, right?
Okay.
So all sort of things.
So think about the planning. I mean, the thing to do, to accept, I guess, for a lot of founders, and I'm sure you come across this, is, we plan to do this, so this is what we're going to do. Plans aren't necessarily, they don't have to be inflexible, do they? Plans can change
Yes,
over time. And that's something that I think is maybe difficult. You have this vision as a founder, I'm doing this, and I'm on this track, and I will not deviate.
yes,
But you can deviate. You can change, and you can do your forecast again. You can make another budget
yes.
if you need to.
So there is a concept called a rolling forecast,
Yeah.
right? So rolling forecast is you look at your forecast on week basis and see what is changing, right? Now you always benchmark with industry data. Now why I say this, right? I can be so audacious as a founder. I think I'm gonna hit 1,000% growth next year, and this I hear a lot, right? Like founders tell my company is gonna do like $300 billion. When you hear that, red flag, right?
Yeah, I think if somebody said to me, "I'm in line for $300 billion," I'd be very much the same. But I take your point. I mean, confidence in your product has led you, or your business has led you to start
Overconfidence.
the business. But there's a point that it tips into overconfidence, isn't there?
Yes, Tim.
Yeah.
So, when you benchmark with market data, you know what is the growth rate of this kind of companies typically, right? Assume like 20% they are growing year on year.
Yeah.
So you always keep your cushion there. Now that is the best scenario or an average case scenario that you can always look at, a median scenario.
Yeah.
Now, if you are growing above that, well and good. But plan for your worst case, right? Not the best case.
Yeah. Okay. So plan for the harsh realities rather
Yes.
than the champagne moments,
Yes.
if you like.
So you always
Okay.
think, any investor, right, or a private equity fund,
Mm.
they look at what can go wrong when you
Sure.
make a deal, right?
Yeah.
So be pessimistic when you look at numbers, right? What are the things can go wrong, and how do you protect from that?
Let me ask you about chief financial officers, because most startups, small, medium enterprises maybe can't afford a full-time
Yes,
CFO.
yes.
So when is when should you transition from your bookkeeper to this concept of a fractional CFO, part-time CFO? When does that what does that look like for a business owner? When is that a time? When do you know it's time to do that?
Yes. So Tim, if you look at for a startup, right? You ideally, I would just a rough idea. If you are at Series A or you have raised funding, good to bring a fractional CFO.
Right.
As early you can afford, bring a fractional CFO,
Okay.
right? Because he's gonna save you a lot, right? It's all about finance management.
Yes.
To have a full-time CFO, you can go up to Series B, right? Or you are expanding fast, you have multiple revenue lanes, right? You're probably doing like a $10-20 million revenue above. So that's a right time where you bring a CFO, where you need someone to manage that kind of money, right? But a fractional CFO, as early on, can help you to strategize your pricing strategy, your financial strategy, how you're gonna fundraise, all of these things
Mm.
can help. So it's good to have us early on as you can afford, right?
And I guess in some ways, fractional CFOs tend to be people with some years of experience in
Yes.
the business. It's almost a business therapy experience as well, isn't it? It's not. This is a stage past the bookkeeping exercise.
Yes. So fractional CFO, if you can't afford like a maybe like a half day or a weekly assignment, get at least 1 hour a month.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, he can come and save you tons of things, because he can tell you where you're going wrong, what are the opportunities there,
Mm.
and how you can do better, right? So that will be like a guiding path. Look at McDonald's story, right? All these companies, where they met like finance people and then change the whole story of the company. And this is a classic example where if you have like a fractional CFO or a finance brain in your company,
Mm.
can help you a lot more. And I see this every day, like when we see certain businesses, you see like they could have done fantastically well, much better, right? Just
Had you
tweak
reined
pricing a
in
bit.
that? Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Okay. Reined in the crazy creative CEO.
yes.
Yeah. No, I get you. You mentioned this earlier on. Founders mixing personal and business.
Yes.
And in terms of accounting, it's a classic mistake, but it's very much a thing. Why is it still happening? We're in 2026, and how does it complicate the valuation process when you're ready to exit? Because it is still very much a thing that people mix.
Now,
their money up.
one of the biggest problem with this, when somebody keeps spend from their personal expenses, is you can't track this as an accountant, because nobody's going to share their personal bank statement to you to do a record keeping.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So the second you underestimate expenses, because you're spending a lot of money from your personal, it doesn't get recorded, and you underestimate expenses. Right. Why founders still do that? It's just because it's easy, comfortable, right? I don't have to set up the company bank statement, right, and all sort of things. And sometimes they don't have the money to pay from the company, so they just pay from their cards. They don't have cards. But as early on, if there is some traction happening, business is, you're getting serious into business, because you're investing most of your time in that business, right, than spending time with your family.
Mm.
So if you're spending whole day, set up a C corp, maybe $100-200 company, get a bank account, spend from there. This take like 2 days, maybe 1 day to do that.
Okay. That's good advice. In the Gulf at the moment, none of us know what's going to happen, right? But in particular at the moment, take the current geopolitical and the supply chain shifts that we've seen. So cash flow forecasting is harder than it's ever
Yes,
been.
yes.
It's always difficult, but even harder now. So how do you advise founders to build a resilient model that can take into account in some way the unexpected?
Yes. See, now when the market is not predictable, right? Now the market is not predictable. You
Sure.
don't know which are going to be bad debts out of your AR,
Yeah, yeah.
right? Now, the only way to protect is that what is your plan B if you don't get funding? If you can't collect your AR, right? Can you get some liquidity from banks? Can you do some invoice discounting, right? So you have to look at multiple alternatives that actually safeguard you,
Mm.
right? And then do you have a robust AR collection framework? Now, some of the companies have right SOPs on how do they collect AR
Yeah.
and what is their policy regarding that, right?
Okay.
Now you can go up to getting into like sending a legal notice if customer is not paying. Probably your chances of getting is higher. Proper follow up, a simple proper follow up. If you know the UAE market generally, right? You have to chase,
Sure.
right? If you don't do that, you're gonna lose. So simple habits.
It takes a lot of time to chase up.
Yes.
If you're
And
in
then-
collections, that's a hard job here.
And then you can use platforms like Tabby, for example, give installments, payments, right?
Yeah.
You can collect check. So you can use multiple strategies to get the AR. It's not like a one straightforward answer to collect the AR or do the cash flow planning, right?
Right.
This is
Okay. And one of the things I guess as founder, you have to account for being able to pivot. Think on your feet, be able to change direction. All of those things are useful soft skills, harder skills now, I guess. In terms of tax, we're in a new era of tax compliance
Yes.
in the UAE. What should founders know about tax in the early days, and what should they know as they grow? I mean, that's a continual learning process,
Yes.
isn't it?
So one, having knowing the tax laws, at least the basics, right? What are the compliances required?
Right.
What about VAT, corporate tax, right? There is again AML compliances for certain businesses. Look at all the compliances. Track your due dates. Put
Okay.
reminders,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
Basic sanity, so you don't miss out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get all those registrations done. This probably you should hire a tax expert, right? Because they can save a lot of time, mistakes, and get your books in order. Because tax is like there are multiple elements to that where you need to look at different items. What is classified, what is non-classified, what is zero, what is exempt, right? All sort of things.
Sure.
So you need probably have an expert, but keep all your bills records properly, right? This is super important.
Yeah.
I know founders hate this, but this is the hard reality of running a business.
Well, it is, isn't it? It is the habit of keeping receipts, just doing it every day. Because down the road, I've been doing it.
Yes,
it
that's the
saves
boring
a
part
lot
of the business.
It is, unfortunately. No, I'm with you. What financial metrics should every founder be monitoring regularly? What's the list of key
Yes.
metrics?
Let me say maybe around 4 or 5 metrics, Tim, that actually help founders to be at least safeguard from any bigger risk, right?
Okay.
One, you look at your runaway. Very, very important. Monthly basis you can look at or weekly basis.
Okay.
Depends on the scale and growth of the business. Burn rate. How much cash are you burning? What is the runaway?
Yep.
Look at your gross profit margins. Look at your revenue growth. Look at your AR collections. Money in the bank.
Right.
This will give you like a full 360 view.
I'm just thinking, sometimes I really like looking at the money in the bank, and other times I think, rent's just been paid, it's gone down a bit. You can understand. All right, though, so those are the metrics. In your experience, Mohammed, and this is kind of conjecture, this is just, rumination, I think. What separates startups that scale successfully from those that struggle financially?
Yes. See, the problem with startups especially, right, compared to SME, startups grow really fast.
Right.
When you grow that fast, do you have real discipline, financial discipline? Can you also manage finance? Do you have a solid financial foundation to manage that scale of growth?
Right.
Otherwise, it can be very easily become chaotic and scale down. Look at so many examples of companies, right? Someone expanded recently, a multi-unicorn company from here expanded to Saudi and got tax compliance issues, and they had to shut it down. There's a company failed, which was like a Series A, like have raised like multi-million dollars. Went to Saudi, again had tax compliance issues, shut it down. So there's so many examples of unicorns, companies have done well. Founders have managed to get revenue, build a great product, amazing customer experience, build a great company. End of the day, they don't manage their finance well. And it's very sad to see that they shut it down or they have to close it down. And this is so many cases, and you feel bad that the company would have been existed, because I've been a proud customer of that great product. But when you go deep, you hear that is closing down. They are in issues because they didn't manage finance well. And this is the classic case where a lot of them get it right. A lot of founders, people build great businesses, great products, but they don't manage their finance well.
We're back full circle to the stay on top of the numbers, aren't
Yes,
we? It's
super
a
important.
constant battle. What would, final question for you, we've got a minute left. What's your top piece of advice for founders looking to grow sustainable in today's business environment, the environment that we find ourselves in, a tighter environment, I guess?
Yes. So, any founder, what I would advise is first, build a bit of financial literacy, right? If you don't have that. Second, get mostly like a fractional CFO on your side so that they can help you, because you don't need to figure out a lot of things yourself. And the third, know your numbers. Build a solid financial foundation as a company. That's going to save you a lot later time.
Yeah.
And look at all the companies are successful. They're super financially disciplined.
Financial discipline and know your numbers. I'm taking that away with me today. I feel like it's imprinted on my brain now. I appreciate it. Mohammed Shafiq is the founder and the CEO of Financials.com. It's been good to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you for inviting me.
Appreciate you coming in. A reminder: this full interview will be posted to our Mira Business FM LinkedIn page.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio. Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
It's the morning drive. Fresh uncertainty is hanging over the Middle East after the latest escalations between the US and Iran, even as both sides signal they are still open to talks. And with investors watching oil prices, shipping routes, and regional stability, the big question is whether diplomacy can still deliver lasting peace and restore business confidence. Joining us is Dr. Zaidon Al-Kanani, founding director of the Arab Perspectives Institute. Hopefully we can get some insights on the outlook for negotiations, for regional security, and what the latest developments mean for businesses and investors. Dr. Zaidon, good to have you on the show. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
We've seen a pattern of fire followed by a truce, followed by renewed escalation. Is this latest round of talks, or has this latest round of talks in Oman been fundamentally different, or are we witnessing a tactical pause, if you like, while both sides catch their breath? What's happening now?
Well, to be frank, the MOU, which did derive out of these talks, were never seen as a permanent solution from the first place. It was seen as a temporary ceasefire, if you may, that would have calmed down the escalation that was unexpected by all sides involved. It was also an attempt, as you rightfully mentioned, where there would be internal assessments by all parties, figuring out how to return to the situations if it were to revive again, as we are gradually noticing now. But this doesn't mean that all sides in this conflict are not interested in stability or a solution. I think it has been very notified and recognized from the early stages of this conflict that even both the United States and Iran, alongside the regional actors that have been impacted by this war, have been wanting and putting enough effort into wanting to end this war. In fact, there was a stage where we noticed that the days of the negotiations preceded the days of the conflict. I think the multilateral element of this war is what is complicating it, and that is due to the Israeli presence and element. This is also a notified issue by all Gulf countries that are arguably long-standing allies of the United States, economically, commercially, politically, institutionally, educationally, and in many different industries. It was perceived that this conflict had only aligned with the Israeli approach towards the region, which made it very odd for many Gulf actors in the region, including those that were close to normalization with Israel. So these talks seems to be that they will continue to be ongoing, given that most countries affected by it geographically and involved in it politically are impacted by it in one way or another. However, it seems like there will be a permanent scar in the relationship between the United States and many regional actors.
It does seem that way. It's very hard to read whether these latest escalations will ultimately lead to a strengthening in the resolve to find meaning in the talks, or if they're weakening the prospects for that. The Strait of Hormuz is to market confidence is key. Iran has signaled it values control over the strait more than avoiding renewed conflict. For a business leader in the Gulf, how do we interpret this? Are we entering a long-term era where maritime transit through the Gulf is permanently conditional?
I think business investors wouldn't have to be concerned about the legal mechanisms that would erupt out of this war when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, as much as policymakers would do. What this war has mainly conducted or created is that it has been transforming from something called the Iran war into the war on the Strait of Hormuz. And this comes as a sudden surprise by most parties involved, given that it was clearly not in the calculations of the US administration when they were imagining and planning for this war. It was also not in the calculations of many Western allies that feel like they didn't put enough effort in advocating against this war for happening, similarly to the Gulf efforts that were attempting for this war not to happen, despite their share of differences with the Iranian government and regime. I can imagine that business investors would now want to look at already existing industries or emerging industries that would derive out of this conflict as a form of economic resilience. And we've noticed throughout history, even particularly in contemporary history, that certain political crises, and not even necessarily wars in this type of scale, would allow many economic circles to notice gaps in the market that would be beneficial. I think finding alternative routes and trading routes for businesses to survive isn't a concern that would be a burden on the shoulders of business investors. That is a concern that will have to be dealt with policymakers.
Reports do suggest that the conflict has, in the words of one report, irreversibly shaken the image of the Gulf as a safe harbor for international capital. How do you read this? From your perspective, is this just a temporary reputational dip, if you like, or are we seeing a fundamental shift in how global investors view the risk premium of being based in the Middle East?
Well, I think many countries have picked themselves up from much more complex and intense economic crises in the past. One cannot forget that this is the very same global economy that has survived the global financial crisis. It's the same global economy that survived the economic crises that many European economies faced following Brexit. This is the same global economy that has survived and bypassed the consequences of COVID-19. A lot of people would obviously counter-argue this point that we didn't necessarily survive. Inflation has become enormously difficult, and it has only made it even harder to many low-income and low-middle-class income communities around the world. Even this part of the world has dealt with its fair share of many political developments throughout its contemporary history. One cannot forget the challenges of the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s, the challenges of the Gulf War around between 90 and 1991. In fact, countries such as Iraq, that were one of the most war-torn countries since the US invasion in 2003, is now seen as a country that is picking up itself economically, and even many Gulf investments have been entering the country. So I think it might be too early and too unfair to judge and assess already about a war that we don't even know the future of it. It might end next week and it might take another few months. That this war would completely eliminate the economic standards of the Gulf region. We also have to keep in mind Gulf countries are 6 different polities, 6 different sovereign states with very diverse economies, very different geographical sizes, very different interests in their investments in natural resources. I think what's mostly concerning about the future of the Gulf region is imagining the transnational alliances, if there will be any reshuffling alliances in the region, within the Gulf region, but even in the region beyond the Middle East. I think there are more countries around the world that unfortunately are also facing economic challenges erupting out of this war. You've got countries such as Philippines, countries such as Nigeria, even countries in the United Kingdom and France, where people are imagining that if the blockade and the disruption of the movement around the Strait of Hormuz continues until winters, people can't imagine how the gas bills would be spiking.
It's a good point to make. I mean, we're seeing energy majors and regional airlines recalibrating for lower volumes and higher insurance premiums. From I guess a UAE perspective, for a mid-sized startup or an SME here, I'm interested in your opinion on the most important defensive move they should be making right now to survive a more prolonged period of regional instability.
I think the UAE and many other countries in the Gulf are imagining an existential viewpoint here in the future. Now, if we were to take a step back, and as previously mentioned, the Gulf have had their share of differences with Iran throughout history, with some countries having to improve its relations in a much more direct way, and others keeping it stalled in a different way, despite having some strong economic relationships and investments from and to Iran, in the case of the UAE and Iran today, which is why many of the Iranian attacks against the UAE came as a surprise for many economic analysts, given that Iran has some of its largest assets outside the country within the UAE financial sector. I think the Gulf security framework is imagining itself in the future between perhaps two different ideological schools of thought. But before looking at that long term, we need to imagine short term, is that most Gulf allies are supporting the idea of an urgent solution and an end to the war at any cost. And then we might derive into looking into these diverse approaches, where some might be promoting a stronger ideological school of thought, referring to the deterrence camp, which is closer to the UAE approach. Could have been closer as well to the Saudi Arabian approach, but the Saudis may have moved towards some form of imagining better tools of diplomacy, given the mistrust towards the US. As previously mentioned, many of these Gulf allies believe that their long-standing relationships by the United States, economically, politically, and militarily, hasn't been recognized enough when this war was conducted. And then you've got the other school of thought within the Gulf, which is closer to the Qatari and the Omani school of thought, which wants to promote diplomacy as a final and permanent solution in this regional neighborhood, which includes themselves and Iran. However, what's even complicating that school of thought, and there has been public statements by the Qatari Foreign Ministry and by many countries in the region, even beyond the Gulf, that have advocated for the importance of mediation efforts, is the continuity of the Iranian attacks against these countries, despite claiming that it wants to build permanent brotherly, quote-unquote, relations with these countries. The issue we have here is that Iran views these countries as part of an overarching pretext of US influence in the region, which is why we're imagining that it will be leaving a permanent scar in the relationship between both Iran and the Gulf. Hence, it'll be very difficult to imagine that the permanent relationship will survive and be sustainable.
In your research, Dr. Zainon, you've looked at how nations try to keep economics separate from politics. Given this current crisis, to what extent can the private sector in the Gulf decouple from the geopolitical shocks that we have seen and are continuing to see? Or is the integration too deep?
The integration is certainly too deep institutionally if we were to look at it in the short term. But in the long term, I think there will be a lot of strategic evaluations. I think what will be noticed is that once notified that this was a part of the region where there was a strong focus on natural resources on one hand, but also a strong focus on sectors such as tech, AI, edtech, entertainment, the sports industry, tourism, culture, and arts. And it should continue to put these efforts into it, given that this war shouldn't, and we never hope for it to continue and last permanently. But I think there will be now a very strong focus into integrating and implementing geopolitical security frameworks into these fields. We've already noticed a strong interest by many of these Gulf countries in investing in private educational institutions that would teach international relations, politics, military studies. I think what we are imagining now, especially given that there are many political elitist conversations, and some of them have been perceived by the regional media, is that many of these Gulf countries now are imagining a future a relationship between an imagined political community that unifies the GCC. We've all known that the GCC has always been one of the most successful unified bodies in the region, but given the recent share of differences they have been facing even prior to this conflict, it does come as a surprise, which is perhaps one of the most optimistic results that did derive and emerge out of this crisis, is that now they're realizing that they may want to create a stronger collectivity that would ensure that it could protect their collective existentialism, which was collectively threatened by this war. I think many multinational companies and strategy houses will now feel more confident in pitching ideas about how to support and enhance these countries' risk assessments and risk preparations and frameworks and institutional muscles when it comes to their geopolitical security frameworks.
The headlines focus on oil strikes, oil prices and military strikes. What's the silent economic impact that you're tracking? Is it a drop in FDI? Is it perhaps a change in, I don't know, the talent migration patterns that have historically fueled the growth in the Gulf region?
So one cannot deny that a lot of countries in the world, whether it's Russia or China or even arguably the United States, as per Trump even stated, that his economy would be able to provide the alternative oil that wouldn't be able to be found from the Gulf in the same expected timeline by many of their client economies around the world. There's an interesting issue here is that, and if we look closer into the oil industry, is that if you represent a country that has had an agreement with a country that I controlled for the past 40 years, and suddenly I'm not able to provide you that oil due to a disruption of routing or trading or movement, it doesn't mean you can find that alternative to suit you immediately, because not all oils are the same. The oil in Saudi Arabia, the oil in Iraq, the oil in Libya, the oil from Russia, the oil from other countries around the world are different. Hence, they're used for different purposes around the world, which means that many of these economies might try to find temporary solutions or even wait for some of these economic allies and partners that they have established a long-standing economic trading partnership with for a very long time. We can also imagine that there might be other businesses and there might be other economic inventions that might erupt out of these conflicts. There might be industries that will be discovered. There might be other products and goods and services that might find themselves being discovered by these regional economies, discovered by many of these trading routes around the world as an alternative. Some of them might jump into the picture as a temporary alternative and find themselves becoming permanent solutions based on common interest between the seller and the buyer. This might be a very optimistic point of view, but one cannot deny that many of these crises in history, in contemporary history, especially in this part of the world, has been the perfect opportunities for business investments to notice new elements that could benefit their business and economic relationships with the agencies they deal with in the countries.
So with that in mind, what signals should businesses be watching in the coming weeks?
Alternative services and goods that could be delivered that weren't be able to be delivered. Alternative routes to the Strait of Hormuz, which do exist around the Sea of Oman, around the Red Sea next to Saudi Arabia. There has been a lot of discussion about a route that connects movements between the GCC, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. Obviously, it wouldn't fill the gap immediately. The global economy's 20% reliance on the movement on natural resources has been through the Strait of Hormuz. So neither the economy of this region or the rest of the world will be able to fill that gap immediately. However, if the crises were to be continued and the disruption of the movement of goods and services to the Strait would be continued and impacted by the continuity of this conflict, alternatives will be discovered in one way or another. That's always been the case in world history, where the consequences of political developments, if it were to be permanent, it does not mean that the economic consequences were to be permanent. There will always be an alternative solution that will fill it.
Can I ask you for an opinion, I guess? Project our situation 6 months from now to, let's say, the new year, into January 2027. What seems to you to be the most likely reality? Are we living with a manageable tension, or should businesses be, stress testing balance sheets for a not quite such an agreeable scenario?
I think, and this perhaps will make it easier to look at it from a distance for many business investors, is that the current level, the current military level, the current status quo, the geopolitical status quo of the conflict as it is today wouldn't continue. The United States cannot afford it. Iran can't afford it. Even Israel, that has been very open about wanting to continue this conflict, regardless of the U.S. approach, regardless of the progress between the U.S. and Iran talks. The current status quo of this war wouldn't continue as it is, but I think the regional rivalries led by both Iran and Israel, as an attempt to proclaim their positions as regional powerhouses, would continue, which means that it will be a huge difference between the implications to the micro level and macro level businesses and economic opportunities in the region. Do I believe that they will be able to revamp themselves and integrate and adopt into the new situation to ensure that business as usual would continue, but in a much different way? Yes, certainly. I think the region has faced bigger economic consequences and challenges, including the global economy, many decades before.
Dr. Zaidan Al-Kinani is the founding director of the Arab Perspectives Institute. I must apologize for our delay in getting to you this morning, Dr. Zaidan, but we did get there in the end. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
As always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more interviews like this from Mira Business FM.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
This is the Morning Drive at Mira Business FM. From rising customer expectations to regional disruption, the pressure on delivery networks has never been higher. This morning, we're going to pull back the curtain on one of the most visible logistics operations in the UAE, the technology, perhaps, the leadership, the split-second decisions that keep one of the region's biggest logistics operations moving. How real-time data drives decisions, how you balance speed with driver welfare, and the innovations shaping the future of last-mile delivery across the Emirates and the wider region. Konstantin Kodsi, or Kosti, as he's known, is the Director of Logistics for the UAE at Talabat, with me in the studio. It's good to meet you.
Thanks a lot, Tim, for having me here today. So let me just start by giving a little bit of an introduction of Talabat. I think that would be good for our audience.
Jump in.
So Talabat is actually operational in 8 markets as of today. And after our Q1 results, which is an impressive thing for us at that scale, we are already growing at 23% year over year, quarter one. And then we are serving almost 6+ million customers across the region. We have 65,000 plus vendors and around 120,000 plus riders.
Okay, so you hit me with the figures early on. They're impressive figures. Let me sort of get the history of Talabat from you. I mean, I'm aware of Talabat. I've been here for some time, and I know there are a few iterations. There have been a few owners of Talabat, but I think most of us kind of take a business like yours a little bit for granted. And I don't mean that to be impolite, but it's pretty simple. It's kind of seamless. You know, you order, you pay, somebody turns up with your stuff. That's kind of the model. And it seems really easy. So I want to delve into that. There's obviously more to it. So Tell me a bit about the history of Talabat, and then tell me about your role, because you're head of logistics.
For sure. We've been acquired by Delivery Hero, I would say, in 2016, 2017, around that time.
Yeah.
The company was founded in 2004 from Kuwait.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And since then, this is where we are. We IPO'd in 2024 on the Dubai Stock Exchange.
Right.
And this is, in short, the history of the company. The growth has been steady over the last years, which is, again, still impressive, provided the scale of the business that we have.
Yeah.
And where my role actually sits is, it's a privilege, I would say, to have this role, because it's a fun role. It sits at the intersection of strategy, execution, and innovation.
Yeah.
And trust me, Tim, there's not a lot of roles that actually allows you to live in those three different worlds.
No, I
Because
can
usually
imagine.
either you are expert in the first one, the second one, or the third one. But for you to be able to do the three of them is just beyond exciting. Now, on top of this, my main or core job, I would say, is looking after the cost per order, which is one of the biggest line items in the P&L and has a lot of commercials implications. And it actually covers almost everything, from your partner to the rider welfare, to the customer experience that you actually want to be providing, and finally to how competitive do you want to be in the market that you are operating in. And given the UAE is a very competitive market, that becomes even more important.
Sure.
Now, to your point, you're saying about the seamless stuff. I think this is flattening, because that means we're doing a very good job for us to be delivering such a seamless experience for you, while it is not actually that simple.
No, I mean, I know, and I'm underplaying it for obvious reasons. It seems to me that it's a little bit like a swan on a lake. It looks serene and it looks beautiful and it's regal. But you know, underneath, the feet are doing this. They're flapping like crazy. It must be a little bit like that behind the scenes. Incredibly complex, I think. You recently shared a video, a behind-the-scenes look at your life at Talabat on social media. What would you like more people to understand about the complexity of managing a logistics operation in the way that you do?
I'll go back to the point of you saying that, okay, you go to the app, I place an order, then I get it in 15, 20 minutes, and it looks seamless, right?
Yeah.
That order actually is being planned months before it's actually being placed. What do I mean by that? So every single company...
That worries me a little bit, because it means you're inside my head. I don't like that.
Not yet, but hopefully with AI, we'll get there. I'm joking. So months ahead, we actually be planning what kind of demand we are forecasting. And that has a lot of machine learning models, plus the trends, plus what are we expecting in the growth of your population, etc. Once that is in and that is locked, then this is where us, from a logistics perspective, we understand how many riders do we actually need for us to maintain that seamless experience, right?
Right.
Then the operating model of Talabat is actually riders are not directly under us. We have partners, external partners that we contract with, and they are the ones that actually provide us with the rider supply that is needed. Okay. Now, once this is locked in and this is communicated across our partners, then our job becomes on onboarding the rider, training the rider, making sure that he has a road safety training, because that is one of the most important things.
Yeah.
Then providing him all the inventory equipment that he needs, understanding how the experience works from a vendor to a customer side. And then lastly, and the most important point as well, is the insurance, where he's insured and he's covered. And then he starts delivering the order. That's the first phase of it, right?
Right.
Then when you get weeks ahead, this is when it becomes getting even more complicated, because you will have to forecast the demand at the neighborhood level, at an hourly level, and then staff the riders depending on that. So we have as close as possible, from a proximity perspective, of a rider to that vendor for us to optimize the delivery time and deliver you the experience that you are expecting as a customer. Now, fast forward to the day itself, live operations. A lot of things can disrupt live operations. And this is where we have a live ops team that actually can step in, be it on ground or behind the systems that are running, and intervene for it to smoothen out or adjust and arrest whatever problem we are facing. And now the last step of it is, okay, you look at the performance, you look how you are actually performing across the days, across the hours, and then you adjust, and then you repeat that cycle all over again.
Okay, so incredibly complex, and even more complex in a city like Dubai, where it seems to me, I joked a few years ago that I went away for 4 weeks in the summer, and I was driving to work the day after I got back, and there was a big new tower that had just appeared. And I'm like, was that built in a month? What on earth is going on here? But we literally have neighborhoods popping up, it seems, constantly. So you have to plan for that. So you're planning in a city that's growing at a rate unlike probably any other city on the planet, and cities around the region in a similar way as well.
Yeah, which makes
a nice problem to have, but it's
a great problem to have, because think about it this way. This is a market. The UAE is one of the best markets in the world when it comes to growth and the continuous growth at this scale, right? And that is a great problem to have because you want to be operating in such markets. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
The second thing is, this is how you structure then your team and you structure your operation. And okay, how do we actually scout these locations? How do we actually have good partnership across with developers that give us the insights on which areas will actually be developed and at what time will they actually be done and unlocked?
Yeah.
And then you continue with the visits of the scouting until you figure out that those buildings now are done and they are open. And this is where you start increasing your coverage, or even look at some of our verticals that can actually open stores in these expanded areas. The likes of T-Mart, our grocery vertical that delivers to you in 15 to 20 minutes. And then the likes of our kitchens that actually are dark kitchens that have different brands operating from a single location, which can actually invest in opening there and servicing for these people.
Right.
And it's an important point because those are the areas that you want to continuously win. So your growth and the next 3 to 5 years is actually continuing to defend your category position within the UAE.
Yeah. I mean, we all use the app. I'm starting to understand the engine behind it, kind of. But behind every delivery is massive real-time data, right? That's one point in your business. It's a phrase we hear all the time, real-time data. But in your world, what is the primary metric? Is it expected time ETA accuracy? Is it cost per delivery? Is it driver utilization? How do you weigh those against each other? Because you must be doing that on a daily basis.
Of course, and this is where optimization will always kick in because some of the metrics you will need to will not always go hand in hand. They might go opposite to each other. Yeah. But however, with certain optimization and thinking outside the box, the best approaches and solution is when you move those metrics together in the same direction.
Yeah.
Now, when we're talking about utilization of the riders, that's one of the most important metrics because it dictates as well part of the rider welfare when we're talking about the earnings. Second, when it comes to the customer facing, what we really care about is to be as reliable as possible, meaning that when you open the app, what is the last or first thing that you check when you're ordering? Do you check the promised delivery time, for example?
Good question. Yeah, with food, yeah. With other things, much less so.
Okay, so let's say you're checking and it's 30 minutes, right? And then you receive your order in 60 minutes. How are you feeling?
Getting frustrated, slightly upset, thinking, will I use them again?
Exactly. Now, if I show you 60 minutes and you place the order and you receive it in 60 minutes, how are you feeling?
That you've met my expectations.
Amazing. So that reliability piece is very important.
Gotcha.
So delivery time are important when you're trying to make your service as fast as possible for you to convert the people that actually like the speed part. And this, we are seeing more of a trend where the customer behavior is moving towards needing stuff as fast as possible.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the reliability piece is the most important one because at the end of the day, what you are expecting, we actually need to meet in a seamless way.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, convenience is a thing now, right? 10 years ago, convenience in this kind of frame really wasn't a thing. I mean, 10, 15 years ago, we would pick up the delivery order on the way home and get home and get stuck in traffic, it would be cold, and there was frustration, food wasn't as good. I'm going off on a tangent now, but you know what I mean. So now convenience is this thing, and I wonder, we're at this point where I was telling you a story off air. I used a delivery app for something recently. I could not have got to the store, bought the stuff, came back in the time that it was delivered. Just would not have been possible. So it's exceeding all expectations. So scaling in that way is incredibly complex. And then when you have to match that to the physical expansion of the city that we live in, you can see the issues. Fast isn't a preference. Fast is like a business model now, right?
I would say this is where we are moving, and
Yeah.
it will at some point it will become a hygiene and not something that I actually offer to the customers.
Yeah. What's the secret to maintaining the operational resilience that you have? I mean, it's been tough times for the last 4 months, right? Particularly tough for most businesses. But how do you maintain that kind of resilience and make sure that deliveries are reliable? Because your thing needs to be, we deliver on time every time. That's kind of the point, isn't it?
Correct.
Yeah.
That's a very good question, actually. And operation at that scale, Tim,
Yeah.
will require you to already have SOPs and BCPs that are embedded in your operating model.
Okay.
That's the start.
Yeah.
And those should not be created in solo. What do I mean by this? Those are created hand in hand with authorities, with respective government authorities like RTA, Dubai Police, ITC, Abu Dhabi Police, right? For you to actually meet the local standard. So when things actually go out of hand, we are all aligned on how are we going to tackle this problem.
Right.
Now, any new problem and anything that you have on paper, when you go into execution, sometimes it won't be 100% the same. And this is where you keep an open line communication with authorities on how are we adjusting and what are the things and the approaches that we are actually doing. So for me, if you don't have that relationship, it's very hard for you to actually have a resilient operation. That's I would say the backbone of it.
Right.
Now you go into another 3 things that I can touch point on, which is how you prepare your riders, the training that you give them, the safety angles, the insurance that they have. All these groundworks are there. Second, you have your team, because your team needs to be resilient enough for them to actually be able to carry this operation as well. Right? And what was the third point?
So I want to pick up on that for a moment, actually. So there's a mindset in the business. How do you foster that? Because there are such high sort of customer expectations on a business like yours. I bet customer service are fielding some fairly fruity inquiries at times. Why was my food late? Why was it burned? All that kind of thing. But so there must be a real kind of culture at the company that you have to foster and grow as well. A mentality that people need to have.
Of course. I would say this is where my profile is a little bit not the normal profile that you see. I come from a professional basketball background. I've done that.
I saw you play a little bit. And I'll talk about the video later. Yeah.
I've done that for like almost 16 years. I've coached for 6 years in my career. And actually what this provides you and the skills that can actually be transferred into the business world are surprising and actually works.
Yeah.
Because in sports, for you to go through all the challenges and the injuries and the fights within the team or the losses that you go through and actually end up winning a championship, when you go through it, you learn, okay, how do you build that mindset? How do you prepare your team for them when they are facing the challenge, they are facing it in a calm way because they were already well trained that under pressure, this is how we are operating.
So the sporting mentality, if you like, that the idea that, I mean, forget the competitive side, put that to one side for a moment, but the idea that when you get knocked down, get back up. That's the thing, isn't it?
That's the thing. Plus, you need to endure.
Right.
The endurance is a key piece within how you need to operate. And you need to be okay to be knocked down. And you need to understand that this is part of the game.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
I'll
what's
be
gonna
knocked down,
happen?
and then I'll
Whether you
go
like it
back
or
up.
not, at some
But
point.
I'll tell you the challenging piece over there was, at the end of the day, those are human beings that are going through something probably for the first time.
Sure.
And the culture that Talabat created in a way where open line communication directly from Exco all the way down to every single team member, always being able to touch point on how every single person is actually doing and any support that is needed. And just coming off as a family, creating that family that is actually not with you in the country. Because if you think about it, the expat rate is super high, and not every single person have their family with them here, and they have them across another country.
Yeah, for sure.
So this makes it even more challenging, because now you have your family checking up on you and asking what is happening, and you're feeling that you're alone here. So the more you create the vibes that you are actually not alone, we are all together in this, and we're covering up for each other and making sure that we keep this ship moving, because at the end of the day, you need to serve that community, and this is one of our main priorities during any disruption that is happening, is impressive. And Talabat has done a lot of good job across this phase from the people and culture function to provide us this support.
Okay. Is it? I mean, it's a heavily people business, even though we just see it as an app. I mean, there are lots of people behind the scenes. It's a good ethos to have. I want to talk to you a little bit about drivers, the riders, in a little while. But I'm interested. Let's get back to the efforts that you have to make in adverse circumstances. You know, when things are disrupted, and not necessarily by what we've seen in the last few months, could be. I don't know, rain, could be a change in weather that, you know, means you have to turn on a dime. How do you, well, I mean, how do you predict that? That's not even the right way to phrase it, but predictive and analytics manages the peaks, I suppose. But how do you account for those moments where you think, what's coming out of the sky? Like, you know, you think back a couple of years to that rain event that we saw.
You took me back a couple of years ago.
Remarkable.
And even now, when it's happening, it became more of a BAU. But the challenge specifically to rain, Tim, is that it doesn't appear all the time on your forecast.
It's a particularly good example for you guys as well,
For
because
us.
it's very dangerous, obviously, for the riders.
So if it doesn't show on the forecast, you cannot actually be well prepared for it. And hence why we have our SOPs that can allow us to mobilize as fast as possible and react to the weather condition that is actually happening. Now, one thing that I'm proud of at Talabat is that rider safety is a priority, meaning that it doesn't come as a trade-off with whatever is happening. And we have been tested on multiple occasions, and we actually closed our entire operations for several hours, which has actually cost us hundreds of thousands of orders.
Right.
But we've done that because it wasn't as safe for the riders to actually operate.
Okay.
And for you to be able to take such decisions, right, is
it
shows the value. That
it's the right
Talabat.
decision. But I bet anybody listening or watching now has had a point where a delivery rider, not necessarily from your team, but they've had a moment where they've thought that was a bit risky, that was too fast, what the hell is that rider doing, that kind of thing. So I think front and center for a lot of people is, how are these guys trained? What are the safety procedures? So tell me about how that works. What does a rider have to go through? I know you work with partners, but what does a rider have to go through before they can start work? In a little bit more detail. I know safety gear and everything else.
Okay, so one thing that we have built in is strong partnerships with companies like Belhassa in Dubai, companies like Emirates Transport in Abu Dhabi.
Okay.
And those are more of a practical road safety trainings that riders actually go into, and they have to go through cones on top of their driving license and all the things that they have to do. And how do I react in certain situations?
So additional testing over and above the right.
Exactly.
Right.
Plus, additionally to our training models, that tells the riders and educate the riders on what are different situations that he will be going through and how to operate against it. Now, this is all great, right? But I'll ask you, how will you know which rider to train? And this is the thing that I love the most about what tech actually enabled for us, because we have something that is called telematics. Telematics
I'm aware of it,
is on top of our rider app. What does telematics actually do? It actually tracks the rider driving behavior and then gives you a score. Now, this allows us to coach the low-scoring riders and prevent them to actually get into accident, for us to know that he is a reckless driver and we need to actually coach him.
So you can tell from telematics if somebody is switching lanes a little bit too sharply, or
Yes.
and you can
Switching
judge
lanes,
speed, that
speeding
kind of
up,
thing.
speeding
Right,
ahead
right.
on top of the limit, harsh braking. Is he actually speaking on the phone while he is delivering? Those are all metrics that we can actually track, and those are the components of the score that you actually get from every single rider. And now the way we're tracking this is how many perfect trip that rider actually has. And based on that score, this is how we target. And we've seen a very good improvement in the riders that have the low score go through the process of the coaching and the training and then go back on the field.
So the safety aspects can be improved that way.
Yes.
I would hope that's the one side of it. At the same time, you can optimize number of deliveries, work being done, can't you? So that's what you have to balance there.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. No, I'm with you. We've nearly run out of time. I feel a bit bad because I haven't got through most of the questions that I wanted to, most of the points that I wanted to ask you about. Let me pick a couple of questions for you just to finish, just very quickly, Kosti. Yeah. All right. I wanted to ask you this because you're involved. This is kind of, I'm not saying you're living for this, but this is your life. This is what you're most involved with. The future. What's the biggest hidden challenge in logistics that if a startup is a founder's listening to this interview at the moment? Okay, Talabat's around since 2004, a vet in the space, no doubt about that. But what do people not pay attention to in logistics? That what's the thing that defines a winner in the logistics space, last mile delivery space?
We will need to go back to every single point that we have discussed in this interview. If you want to actually form a winning logistics last mile operating model, all the points that we have discussed during this interview are the things that someone needs to go through for them to create that.
So basically,
on
listen
top
to
of
this
it,
whole interview again. I like that. You did my job for me, so I appreciate that. Final thing, what excites you about the future of logistics and delivery services? What makes you get up in the morning?
I would say we are fortunate to be living in the UAE. That's number one, because this is a country that is adopting AI in a very fast pace, I would say. They are betting big on that technology, and this technology is actually evolving as we speak, right? And Talabat being part of this ecosystem is actually doing the same. Now, that excites me because the capabilities that this tech is bringing are things that we thought were impossible, I would say, a couple of years ago. And as you go, it is allowing us to actually go back to the starting line and rethinking what kind of experiences are we actually creating to the customers, and what are the things that we can actually continuously do better or innovate around.
There's a lot more for us to talk about, isn't there? I didn't even get onto the AI question because I knew we need a lot more time for that. For now, Konstantin, or Kosti Kodsi, is the Director of Logistics for the UAE at Talabat. I've enjoyed talking to you. Thanks for coming in.
Same here, Tim. Thanks again.
I appreciate it. If you're watching on YouTube right now, don't forget to subscribe to the channel.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio. Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.
Welcome to Power List with Tatiana on Mira Business FM. This week we have Vail Juju, the founder and CEO of V-Marine. And thank you for coming, Vail, and welcome to the studio.
Thank you so much, Tatiana. We really appreciate this invitation.
Most people think luxury hotels belong on land. And what made you believe they could also be built on water?
We need to define a little bit what we do and what does floating hotels could include. We as V-Marine, we're behind an initiative to reposition nautical tourism. And when we say nautical tourism, this is mostly, it can give the feeling of the yacht, which is very important. And as well, whenever something becomes in masses, it becomes more of a real estate. So the tourism is a second side of one coin of real estate and tourism together. And what we're trying to do is to position the yachts as part of, among the arena of the real estate offering. So currently, until now, we are all get used that there is 2-3 options in the tower, the city, and a small resort and a villa, and potentially what we are trying to say that there will be a yacht that will cater for you the feeling of a hotel. So that's exactly what we do in floating hotels proposition.
And why only now governments and investors started to see the potential in floating tourism? Only now?
Actually, some big problems have been solved and they were not identified as problems. And we can give a beautiful example that is easy to recognize. iPhone became a major solving problem, and then it created the apps, and then they became Uber. So exactly the same at the moment, we have a missing opportunity, which is the floating properties. Either it is a hotel or residential or a yacht. And at that moment, that asset, which belongs to the 70% of the water, have not been identified as an opportunity. So we're solving a problem that doesn't seem to be a problem. That's really what we are trying to promote.
Mm-hmm. And how can floating hotels increase the tourism while protecting the coastline and the sea line?
Nowadays, the awareness of tourism globally is much higher than everybody. Everybody is spending 2 or 3 times more than the previous year on their own tourism. So we can, without a lot of studies, everybody identifies that tourism is becoming a global economy that everybody is purchasing. You cannot compete in a city using the same old tools of the 100 years before. You just need now to come out with the new ideas, explore new nature, a bigger space, and give the people a more offering so that you're identified as a leader. And this is where all governments are realizing that they need, or they were searching for something new, and we've come up as a main solution.
In which countries floating hotels are very popular, and in which countries they are not at all?
You know, whenever sometimes you're looking in research, and when the relevance or the quantity of the survey is too small, they will say not enough data to give an opinion. This, at the moment, it does not exist in any industrialized or documented manner. And we're trying to put all possible research, or let's say resources, to make it more available for the government. And the last 10 years, we've been lobbying, promoting, and making a lot of awareness. And that's why we say it's not now that they have realized, it is the result of 10 years of promotion. The governments and the tourism arena are aware of what we do.
Looking at the UAE, how this business is developed here?
UAE has always been a leader in harboring or embracing new ideas. And we will be not an exception, will be a continuity of what UAE is always doing. And due to the growth of tourism, looking for an innovative idea, the normal home to grow is UAE, absolutely. However, we see that this new trend of floating resort, floating hotels is not going to be limited only to some cities. It will be the norm where that will be expanded everywhere in the world.
And how many billions are concentrated in this business in the Middle East in general?
At the moment, I can give you 3 numbers, which makes a lot of relevance. Today is 0, because the industry have not started to adopt it as a main solution. The importance is going to grow within 3 to 5 years over $1 billion. And this is not the best part of the information. We do have a lot of research that it will prove that there will be a 30% growth year on year. And this is where scalability and absolute major growth is going to happen on that type of industry.
I know that V-Marine factory is located in Bahrain. Why have you chosen particularly this location?
Bahrain is a very interesting country. First of all, it's an island. And naturally, the growth of development of boats are going to be. And the reason why we particularly look at it, we have realized that Bahrain stopped to be recognized as an island after they have developed the bridge between Saudi and Bahrain. So the land connection have disqualified the most important assets of Bahrain. So we find it a very interesting case that we would like to grow from a place and reposition the island and the value of the water as more important than the land itself.
Okay, and how large is the floating hotel market in the Gulf region? You mentioned Bahrain, you mentioned UAE.
At the moment, we are involved in too many countries, not only in the GCC, as well. We went to Central Asia, to Africa, to to the eastern side of the world, and as well the Americas, because we think that what we are proposing is the natural solution of something that exists, the need and the nature, so that than the experience. Since we are both based in the GCC, we will see immediately or very soon, the next couple of years, we will see in multiple cities floating resorts that will be the talk of the worldwide media attracting, yes.
And how many units does your factory produce per year?
Our local capacity is 120 keys boats a year. But we have built the foundation of the factory with the scalability in mind, so that whenever we have larger projects, either they reach a 500, 1,000, or 2,000, we already have all the resources and the plans in place.
Okay. If an investor would like to establish a floating hotel, what are the top 3 advices that you will give?
I would probably give one advice, and this one advice will evolve all the others. They need to be consciously acting as a leader of new ideas. If they are willing and they have the courage of leading a new success idea, then floating properties, floating hotels, that will be the immediate answer for repositioning or not reinventing the wheel, redefining the flotation benefit, which is a huge solution. It has been absolutely missed. So a courageous leader who believes in taking to be innovative and not copying is the one advice I could give.
What new technologies are making floating hotels more safer and more comfortable than those who are standing on the soil, for example?
I have a good example to explain how we have misunderstood the importance and the relationship with the water. When it comes to the cruise ship, which is a phenomenal big architectural construction, they can build only 10 to 15% on land, and then the weight becomes too heavy, and then you will need extreme difficult foundation to build a land that can carry a weight. So after that 15% of the cruise ship, it is put on the water, and the 80% is built on the water. That tells you that the water is stronger than land, it's more economical, and it behaves in a better way than the land could help us to grow construction.
Could you please explain wider what kind of better?
It is actually because, first of all, we are all, I would say, putting all the efforts on the land. And the land only 30% of the globe, as everybody knows. And not only the land, we're putting concentration on the waterfront. So basically, the whole world is around the 5-10% of the available masses. The 70%, which is the water, is the natural way we have to be. In my opinion, we have considered it a little bit in the opposite way. We've been building on the land, we've exhausted ourselves, and every construction on land is more expensive and is more anti-environmental compared to the building on the water. In my opinion, now architects and developers, they really have to look at the blue, the side of the water, as the natural way of building and growing.
Like in some countries, the floating hotels could be called blue oil. Yeah?
That's a term that we have recently launched, that everybody looks at everybody knows the black oil importance, and some people look at the green oil, and then we have invented or we have promoted the terms which is blue oil. In my opinion, the beauty of it works for every single country in the world. Either they have oil or not, everybody has the blue oil. Let it be on a sea base or an ocean base or a canal or a dam or a lagoon. There is always some water available, and this territory have been missed completely. Everybody has master planned, looked at the land, and everybody missed the opportunity of the most important part of the property, which is the water side.
And what is the best cost for a floating hotel? Because there are different types of costs. I remember you mentioned 4 coasts on an investment summit in Angola, because they have magnificent coasts and they're totally different. Mm-hmm. And I remember when you were speaking, there were 4.
Actually, I would like to compare 2 countries, one of the smallest and one is extremely large, which is Monaco compared to Africa, Angola. This is where the summit has recently happened. Monaco has only 4 kilometers of coast, and it is the shortest coastal existent in any place. Yet they have managed to use that to the benefit, and they became a global ambassador of rich success, tourism, boating, yachting, etc. However, every other country have missed this opportunity, and it's not difficult. They don't need to copy; they just need to adopt. There's not only one place that they can have yachting; it could be in every other place, and in every other place there will be a yachting, floating resource, and floating properties. They will become inevitably rich. So the comparison with Angola, it was 1,650 kilometer, and the beauty of it, they have 4 different categories. They have the urban, they have the rocky, they have the beach, and they have something absolutely exquisite. I haven't seen it anywhere, which is the desert meeting the sea. So these 4 beauties are definitely one element of investment that the countries have to look at, and every other single coast in every other country has their own identity. Again, it has been missed. The people thought it's either a beach or it's nothing. It's the contrary. Actually, Monaco, the success story, they don't have beaches, but they have converted the mountains meeting the sea into a beautiful success story worldwide.
And do we have some countries in the world where floating hotels are banned?
Actually, there's no country in the world that they have banned floating hotel. But there is another paradox that the developers have missed to approach the government and asking for the permission how they build it. There is rules and regulation that they could be interested. The most difficult example is land reclamation. This is way more complicated than a floating hotel. And since that have existed around hundreds of the countries, then floating hotels have no reason not to exist except imagination and request.
And roughly, how much would it cost to build a floating hotel?
There's always, like every other industry, you can always have the minimum, maximum, but we could say to classify or to quantify to be part of the 5-star badges, it starts at $10 million, and now we're involved in design and build of projects up to $100 million.
And what are the operation costs?
You'd be very surprised. It is very similar to what it is on land, and we could probably argue with the time it could be even less.
Basically, and what are the benefits of having a floating hotel if the operation costs are the same?
Actually, the operation costs are the same. The build-up is competitive, and the attraction is way higher. So the premium that you can get from this benefit is, if you compare the on-land compared to the floating, probably we are at a 30 to 50% more advantages on all levels. We take the list of the success without a comparison. Either it is environmental, cost of development, cost of operation, and most important, the premium that the owners could get getting the tourism or the people buying into it.
You mentioned environmental. Could you please give a broader answer?
Yes, for example, any small house that you need to build on land, naturally you need to do a foundation. That would be probably a meter and a half of excavation that you're going to fill it up with steel, with chemicals, with concrete, and etc. That's a very basic and minimum construction evasive on the environment that you do to have a very minimum or small house. When you build on the water, all what you need to do is to sit on the water, and then you're harming no one. The comparison between the foundation, between the water to the on land, I would probably say it's 5 to 10% compared to 100% of evasive on the nature of on land. So by far, we are way much more environmentally friendly, and we're more conscious to the economy.
Okay, let's get back to our region, the Middle Eastern. So, is it difficult to get a license to operate this kind of hotel? Because, for example, for the land we need this amount of papers, and for the water, does it cost something?
Growth of economies, including the tourism, have always referred to architectural phenomena. So we know that one of the huge success or the big element of success that have helped or was part of the success of Emirati is the Palm Island. And that is something that, because it's phenomenally big, attractive, big part of it is touristic and etc., but has been done on a land reclamation. We could see that floating resort could have the same benefit and the same attraction, but without the element of the land reclamation. So they will be much more environmentally friendly. They could be easier, they could be modular, they could be scalable, and also as much, now we are building for something that is 100 years. 100 years later, we never know how it's going to be the society. Roads will change, cars will not exist, population attitude and behavior of belonging to city will completely change. Imagine that you have the ability of relocating all your assets, keeping no traces, no damages, and you have a new empty canvas that you can build on a new city.
Mhm. In the UAE, is it difficult to get a license and how long it will take?
We have not encountered any rejection. We are already now in discussion with several new developers that are interested, and we're just carrying the books of the criteria that is required. Since the land reclamation have pre-existed, the floating resorts will be an easier part to do.
Which countries have the most attractive floating hotels?
We have looked at it and we see that the market would be probably into three places. The countries that they have a nature attraction, and you don't want them to be only next to it. You want to be living in the nature attraction. So they could be floating within the lagoons, within the rivers, and within the seaside. The second one, where the coastal is extremely expensive, and it is the time now to evolve and develop on the water. And the third ones that are flexible with the rules and regulations. And those are also they're going to benefit from this new technology.
Could you please give examples?
The whole world is the example. The whole world is the example.
Nice. Okay. And what are the regulations that can stop opening the hotel, a floating hotel?
In my opinion, it is a new idea that it was not realized by developers, architects, and maybe 2-3 years from now, we hope we're going to sit again, and then we're going to see that it's not us promoting anymore this new tool or new initiative. It will be the media will be involved, architects, developers, trendsetters, analysts. It will be part of the economy, and then just say, oh, we just realized that the new way of building tourism/real estate is floating.
And how do floating hotels cope with bad weather, severe conditions? Because, for example, in the Gulf, we have very still waters.
It's true, but however, building a floating structure, we always refer to the yachting or the boat construction. So anything is already built to extreme weather conditions. If you want to compare it to the real estate, assuming that we build always according to earthquake Richter 9. So this is the highest possible of resistance and endurance.
And the highest in the world is 10, if I'm not mistaken.
Could be
correct?
as well.
Could be.
Could be
So 9, this is very, how would say, reliable.
Yeah, even we can argue that it is as well the 10 if we're taking it theoretically. So, however, we are as a construction, we're extremely safe. If it is at a place that storm is not comfortable, then this will be classified among the seasonal product. So then that hotel or that floating resort will be operational a number of months, and some other months are not, similar to some other seasonal destinations.
And how floating hotels will make money, for example, when there is no season? Because sometimes some countries, they operate 6 months, and for other season, there's no
There's two ways of answering this situation. First of all, if there is seasonal, it means there's a premium price that the people are paying, and usually the calculation are made based on the number of operational days to cover the whole year. The extra benefit in the floating resort that you can relocate the asset to another city where you can use it as well to make the money on a different environment. So this is where you have the double win or the triple win.
Okay, if to choose from your favorite hotels, which floating hotel from around the world would you pick?
At the moment, there is no reference that I can refer to. There is if you want to say that currently there's a certain mini cruise ships that are being used as a hotel. The way that we are promoting it, that it will be like individual, either a combination of yachts or a static floating construction in the luxury, in the quality, in the comfort, and in the total solution. Nobody has done what we have proposed. From the drawing boards or from the consultancies that we're involved, we're involved now in a project that will probably be totally detached as an island. So it's the beauty of it. It's a combination of the hotel, of the motorized rooms, I'd say the club and the marina, and the importance of it. It's all off grid. So literally, we are detached from the land physically and on energy level. Probably this will make the news, and that will be the new standard of the highest possible ways of construction, environment, economical benefits.
Could you please describe the client of Vimarine?
I would say innovative, ambitious leaders. Those are the people who are hand in hand with us. We're going to put something new on the water. And we believe that marvels of architecture in the next decade, they will not be on land, they will be on water, they'll be floating.
And how do you see in 10 years the growth of floating hotels?
It will become not anymore a new technique that we'll be talking about. It will be the norm of the new way, and everybody will say, why didn't we figure it out earlier?
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, Vail, for being with us on our program. And let me remind you that today we had Vail Joujou, the founder and the CEO of Vimarine.
Thank you so much, Tatiana, and for the team. We're very happy to be here. Interesting questions, to be honest, and I think your curiosity, knowing more about the market and the floating properties, is very, very well appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mira Business FM, Dubai's home of business radio.